Hey, listen to Wrestling Rap on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we've got Josh.
Hey,
Uh, I'm gonna start us off with NXT. Taking a look at Halloween Havoc coming out next week, previewing the 5 matches, and then we will jump on over to the main roster, and we'll talk about all that sort of stuff. But let's set our sights on Halloween Havoc. Let's talk about some of the stuff further down the card. Ridge Holland, Andre Chase. We've been building this Chase U storyline, Ridge joining them, Ridge breaking away from them, and now we're going to get ourselves an ambulance match between the two.
yep, kind of unexpected. Um, I really don't know. If it feels like an ambulance match is always designed for the face to win, to get like the satisfaction of hauling off the heel. Although there have been multiple times in which the heel has actually won, but not because of their own doing.
Hmm.
Um,
It's almost in that same sort of category as like a casket match or a buried alive match, right? Like where if the face wins, you've got a lovely good moment. They've vanquished the bad person, and when the bad person wins, it's usually because there's not a whole lot of rules, and the finishes are very easy to have multiple people help you out on.
yeah, yeah. In this case, it's like a Hell in a Cell match. If the face wins, it's a definitive end to the feud. But I feel like I don't know why, but something deep inside of me is telling me Rich Holland's going to win this match. I do not know why.
It's a hard one, I think, just because we don't know what's up with Chase U on NXT. They seem very hot and cold. You know, they'll win some titles, they'll lose some titles. They'll get a push, they'll lose a push. They'll have a member added. That member will, either be terminated, turn on them. Um, they're always, on the screen. There's always something happening with them, but it's not always the most like flowy, obvious storyline that we sort of go down that tells an amazing story. Sometimes it does sort of hard left turn, and so here it's like, do we want Andre Chase to come out on top of Ridge Holland, Chase U stand tall, and maybe they go on to do something else, or are we rebuilding Ridge Holland after his main roster run, and we want the more dominating heel to come out on top, either to re-prepare him back for the main roster or to give him something else to work with down on NXT.
Yeah, I could easily see if that's the route they want to go. Ridge Holland, heel, elevated from beating Andre here. I could see them moving him on to the NXT Championship match winner afterwards. But honestly, I think it might be a good idea to use this match to get Andre Chase off of television for a little while. Maybe you can reboot him, rework him, or just out of sight, out of mind, so we're absent will be leave the heart fonder when he comes back. Um, I think that is the reason why I'm like, I think Rich Holland might win this match. It's just they may want to do something with like having Andre Chase away, maybe showing like uh, everything falling apart for Chase U, or maybe with him gone, everything goes right with Chase U, and it basically drives him to drinking and turns him heel or something. I I think that would be interesting. I just, it's just something just is telling me that Andre Chase, as much as I love him, is not winning this match.
Yeah, I think that's a fair position to take. Um, I don't know. I've also got my money behind Ridge. I think they did this angle for a reason, and Chase U may just be the mechanism to build Ridge Holland back up. The next match might be a little hard for us to predict or to talk about, but Kalani Jordan will be defending the NXT Women's North American Championship. We don't quite know the opponent yet. We've got Fallon Henley, JC Jane, or Jasmine Nix as potential options. But I guess, do you see any of these options really, taking the title off of Kalani here, who's had quite the run since grabbing the title?
I would say if it was definitive where it was one-on-one and you knew for a fact who it was, I think there would be a strong chance. Because Kalani's had a title for a while now. Um, the problem is twofold. One, we don't know which member of the group is challenging, and two, we don't know the stipulation of the match. The wheel landed on Spinner's choice, and they cut the show off immediately. So we don't know what they chose. But there's also another element. This group has been intermingled with the tag team titles, and I think that comes into play too during this match. And so I think Kiani retains with maybe some help from the tag team champions.
Fair enough, and I think that's definitely one topic we will get to when we talk about the main roster. I do want to run down, what's been happening in that women's tag team division, because there actually has been quite a bit of movement as of late. But I'm with you. I think Kalani Jordan will walk out still with that championship. I would be, relatively shocked to see her lose it here, but I do think her days are numbered. She's had a pretty good run as the inaugural champ, and it might be time for somebody else to have that championship around their waist. But if we switch over to the men's North American Championship, it was Obafemi's for a long time, and then it was somebody else's turn to have it around their waist. Tony D'Angelo picking up the title a couple weeks ago. Now this week on NXT, we saw Femi just absolutely destroy the family ahead of their tables, ladders, and scares match at Halloween Havoc.
I I love the family. I think they're a fantastic gimmick. I think Tony's a good in the ring, and I think he's good on the mic. I like Obafemi. I like what I've seen. I like the progression. In all honesty, I think he might be the next challenger for whoever wins the NXT Championship on this show, because I think it is time to either push him up the card or push him to the main roster, because I think his time with the NXT North American Championship has come to an end. So I think Tony D'Angelo will retain, and I think maybe we'll see maybe a new member of the family show up, and maybe that's how he retains, because we're definitely going to have something more than just a fluke roll up this time.
I feel like that's the definitive factor, right? You look at it and you're like, well, Tony won on a roll up. Maybe this is where you sort of legitimize the win and legitimize the title run over Femi. It being a stipulation match does mean that, you don't have to be defeated 1, 2, 3. There is, options around the place. As you say, plenty of interferences could be caused, even if the current members of the family are out. Yeah, I would also love to see Femi move around a little bit. He had a really long run with the North American Championship, looked really good. There's just, if he falls back into that position, I think it will be much more of the same. And so I would rather see him evolve and see him change it up, whether that be, as you said, NXT Championship, main roster, whatever his future sort of holds for him.
Yeah. It could also be, this could just be an easy way of showing who Obafemi's next opponent, next feud will be. You could have whoever that be cost him the match. And that be just as effective.
Yeah. The classic just before the end of the match or after the end of the match, opponent walking out and making the challenge. We had that quite a bit in NXT. Could be where we see it again. But we talked about NXT Championship potentially being that next step for Obafemi. Who would stand in his way? Is it going to be the current champion Trick Williams, or will it be Ethan Page as they have a Devil's Playground match?
Trick just won the championship. It. I have major questions about this because it's like you had Ethan beat him without beating him to become champion. Then you have him Trick Williams beat with win the title back, but not pin even Ethan Page. And now you have them facing off. It's like in this stipulation, it's like I don't know what they're going to do here. Um, I I feel like it's probably going to be Trick Williams retaining, largely because I think there's more people in position that can be raised up to face the NXT champion if a face is the champion, versus where Ethan Page has already kind of burned through a couple of his opponents, and it's like and then the alignments don't work for other people like John Spears and stuff. Um, so I think Trick Williams retains, and then we'll probably see the show end with Trick Williams' next opponent staring him down.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the only thing that's got me leaning Trick Williams is that fact that he just picked up the championship. Um, I do think this will probably be the last collision between these two. Although they have been indirect matches, I think this might be the one between Williams and Page. Will it still have interference? Will it be not clean? I'm sure. I'm sure it won't be super clean, but I don't know. I just see Trick coming out on top, and as you say, moving on to the next challenge that stands in front of him. Is it Obafemi? Is it Ridge Holland if he wins earlier? You know, there's quite a few heels that are coming up the card that need somebody to face off against.
Yeah. Plus, I just thought of something that might be fun in like a week or so or afterwards that might be a possibility. NXT champion versus TNA champion, with the TNA champion being a newly crowned TNA champion, because the current one has said he will not go to NXT. So it would be fun to see Trick Williams versus Joe Hendry, just champion versus champion.
Yeah. Could be a nice little fun match for sure. And then our last match at Halloween Havoc, tag team match in the most stacked women's division, around Giulia and Stephanie going up against Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade.
Which, for the record, they got another body that just was debuted on NXT tonight in Zaria.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. This is Giulia's third match, Stephanie's second match. I just don't think you can have them lose this early, without there being a specific reason for it. You can't have. I don't think you can have Giulia lose again like that. So, I think Roxanne Perez gets walked out on by Cora Jade. I think it's going to result in a 2-on-1 handicap match at some point during the match, and then all bets are off. But I think Giulia and Stephanie win the match. I think there's like a Dolph Ziggler's chance of the heels winning this match.
Yeah, I think you got to sort of look at the women's division as a whole, right? Even though this is a tag team match, it is still surrounding that NXT Women's Championship. That is the story coming into this. Giulia, Stephanie both want their shots at Roxanne. Cora Jade could want her shot at Roxanne. And as you said, the new debutant, Zaria, the renamed Delta, coming all the way over from Australia. Does she want to run straight for her shot at Roxanne Perez? Does she want to do some other things around the place in the women's division before heading for Roxanne, or before heading for the NXT Women's Championship? I don't know. But if Roxanne and Cora do come out on top here in the match, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in terms of where you go forward from here. So I think you're right. I think Giulia Stephanie pick up the win. They both have, decent reasons that they deserve a shot for the title. Maybe Cora walks out, turns it into a fatal four-way. Definitely something that I could see. And
Actually, I think I think they're actually preparing us without telling us for a Iron Survivor match.
all right.
I think I think I think it would be these four ladies plus Delta.
Mhm.
Because I feel because it's almost this time every year that they do that stipulation. Um, and so I think they're preparing us for that stipulation.
Rapid Googling. Yeah, NXT deadline. Looks like it is slated for December 15th this year. So, what are we? Month and a half away? Definitely could be what they end up pulling off. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But I am very excited about that NXT Women's Division, and the prospects that are just loading it up right now. A lot of good matches, a lot of good combinations that could be pulled off. Well, let's go into our entrance theme of the week. We've gone a little bit over halfway, but we will make it back on the other side of the song. And we're going to be playing the Boogeyman's theme to celebrate that Halloween Havoc.
I'm the Boogeyman.
And you're back for listening Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh. Looking at the main roster, let's run down this Bloodline storyline. You know we always lead with it at this point. On SmackDown, Jey Uso comes out, has a little bit of a talky talk to Solo Sikoa. Backstage sort of wants nothing to do with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns wants nothing to do with him. They get beat down, or Reigns and Jimmy get beat down at the end of the show, and then our worst nightmare happens over on Raw in the main event.
Yeah. The second that Jay showed up on SmackDown, that pretty much told me that they were going with the Bloodline costing him the title. I just still hope that they don't just immediately have him fall in line. That he's still, because a part of the issue on SmackDown this past week was that Roman just couldn't lower himself, and that his hubris caused him and Jimmy to get beat down. Also, I will say this: it was very funny that they had Solo Sikoa come out with paper tickets.
Classic.
Especially since nobody uses those anymore. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's fine. It's what they're doing. It gives Jay a reason to stand with Jimmy and Roman. But I do think there's still a piece maybe missing from the picture before Jay fully commits. At least I'm hoping that it's not just me talking in the ether here, because when this airs, SmackDown will practically be airing, and he immediately falls in line.
Yeah, it's a weird one. My preference obviously would have been that Roman Reigns needed Jey Uso rather than Jey Uso sort of needing the group to get his revenge. And now I'm sort of, looking at the different puzzle pieces and trying to almost go, conspiracy board with the red tape and being like, oh, what about this, and this, when most likely we are going to be driving a pretty direct route from A to B. But, we could potentially pull something off. Solo says he's there to help out Jay. He pulls him out of the way of Bronze Spear. It's Fatu that ends up taking out Jay. I don't know. Am I smelling red herrings that are not really there? But yeah, we'll see how we get from A to B, but most likely it is going to be a straight line.
Yeah, I think that might be the one thing that gives it like the element of that they're not going to just go straight to it, because Solo tried to help him because he ate a spear for him, but it was Jacob Fatu that directly cost him the match. And that was after him basically saying, we never needed Jacob. There was reasons why we didn't bring him in before. And then threatening him during the promo on SmackDown. So I think it's also another thing is that it is possible that we are on the verge of being nearer to maybe Jacob Fatu just completely taking over the new bloodline. And Solo having to lick his wounds and walk over to the family with his tail between his legs.
Yeah, I've been making those Survivor Series War Games graphics up with Solo being on the side of Roman Reigns, and the hints are there. You're right,
Yeah, I do think if it happens, if Jacob Fatu does take over, it's not going to be until after War Games. I don't see there, because that would be too. I think if we were going to do that War Games match next year instead of this year, then yeah, you could absolutely do that in the next few weeks and it not be out of place. But I do think maybe after War Games, after Bloodline 2.0 loses, I think the SmackDown after that will be very interesting because it's very possible Jacob Fatu and the Tongas kick Solo out of the group. Probably quite literally.
Yeah, I think it also depends what kind of role The Rock is playing in all of this as well, right? Because if we're talking about the missing chess pieces between these two teams, we do have The Rock floating around, and we do have the former Hikuleo, the other brother of the Tongas, potentially floating around as well. So there are a few more puzzle pieces that could land or could potentially change up the story that we're going to tell. So it's not super cut and dry, which is how we like our wrestling. Well, I said I was going to cover off the women's tag team division, so if we look on down, they've been telling the story through Raw. They've been having Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson coming up onto the main roster, having matches. This week on Raw, it was Io Sky and Kairi Sane versus Morgan and Raquel. We also still had appearances from the NXT team. Then on NXT it was Damage Control versus Legend and Jackson, ending in a no contest after Chelsea Green and Piper Niven from SmackDown come on down. And we're getting so many women's teams across the bazaars teaming up, crossing over brands, appearing here, there, everywhere. Damage Control had a backstage segment where they acknowledged Giulia and Stephanie as well. And I don't know what sort of combination we're going into, but they're at least trying something with this belt and this division.
That is one of the things for a while there, they completely ignored NXT after they got rid of their title. When we were like, if you're going to do that, get them involved more. You have more teams there. Especially once the main roster teams weren't that deep. So at least they're trying to, they're showing off the NXT talent to the main roster's fans as part of an effort to get people to watch the CW show. I don't know. I still don't know if I truly believe yet until I see it that a NXT team will win the titles while still in NXT. But they're giving me plenty of reason to doubt my disbelief. So we'll have to see. But I kind of want Piper Niven and Chelsea Green to come out of this whole situation with the titles. Just 'cause I love Piper Niven, but I absolutely adore Chelsea Green. I think she's phenomenally talented. Anything you give her, she knocks it out the park with, and I think giving her those titles would give her something else just to add to her character and give her more ways to annoy both general managers, because with that title, she'll be allowed to be on both shows.
That is true. Well, we're going to have to see what happens. Obviously, it was a stacked show this week, and we have run out of time. We didn't even talk about World Tag Team, Number One Contenders Tournament, the re-emergence of the Wyatt Six, the Motor City Machine Guns showing up and being on SmackDown. We will get to all of that stuff next week, because for today, we are all out of time. It's been great talking to you. You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D up, our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D up, our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling RND up. And we will catch you next week.